Hello guys, welcome back to another Android application development tutorial. In this video we are going to learn about how to perform pagination on a recycler view. That means here I am going to show you how to create an endless recycler view. For example, in the case of an image gallery app, first we have to load a set of images. As the user scroll up, we have to load more images from the source. The source may be a remote server or the resource folder available on the application itself. So here I am going to show you an example. So here this is a simple recycler view that contains some images. So as I scroll up, it will load the second page. So now the second page is loaded. Now the third page is loaded. Now the fourth page is loaded. So here in the case of a gallery app, we have to divide the images into pages. Each page contains a particular number of images. So now we are going to create an Android application similar to this one. For this application we need a web server. Here I am going to use localhost as web server. Here I am going to working with the WAMP server. Now the WAMP server application is running. So here I have some images available in this folder. Now we are going to place all these images inside WAMP server and we are going to display this image in our Android application. So now here I copy all these images. Now go to the installation folder of WAMP server. Now go to the public directory. So inside public directory of WAMP server, here I am going to create a new folder. I name the folder as gallery app. Now inside the gallery app folder, here I am going to create another folder. I name the folder as images. Now we can place all the images within this folder. So I paste all the images in that folder. So now all the images are available inside the public directory of WAMP server. Now there are 18 images are available in the public directory of WAMP server. So now for this application we need some PHP script in server side. So here we need an API that provide image information in the form of pages. Each page contains a particular number of images. For that we need a PHP script inside server. So for that here I am going to create another folder. I name the folder as scripts. So here I already created the needed PHP script for the application. This is the PHP script. I copy that one, place it inside the scripts folder. Now here I will show you the content of the PHP script. So this is the PHP script available in our server. So here in each request, the Android application has to send two parameters to the server. First one is the page number and second one is the item count. Item count means the number of images needed in each page. So here we get that information into these two variables called the page number and item count. Here I create two variables called from and to. And here I perform some calculation. First calculation is page number into item count minus 1. So the variable from indicate from which image we can start the current page, and the variable to indicate which one is the last image on the page. For example, in the case of page 1, here the calculation become page number is 1 and item count is 10. So this one become 1 into 10 minus item count is 10 minus 1, 9. So here it will become 10 minus 9 is 1. So value of variable from is 1. For the variable 2, here the calculation become page number is 1 and item count is 10. That means value for variable 2 is 10. So in the case of first page, value for variable from is 1 and variable 2 is 10. In the case of second page, value for variable from is 11 and value for variable 2 is 20. That is the calculation we made here. Here I create a variable called response, it is an array, and here we have another variable status that is also array. Sorry for the spelling mistake here. So first here we have to perform some check, because if it is the last page, that means if there is no more information available on the server, we have to inform the Android application that there is no more images to display. So here we check that condition if the variable 2 is greater than 80, because here we have only 80 images are available on the server. That means if the page number is 10, if the item count is 10, we can send maximum of 8 pages. In the case of 9 page, there is no more images. In such situation, we have to inform the Android application that there is no more images to display. So we perform that thing in this if loop. So if the variable 2 is greater than 18, in that case we save some key value pair to the array called response. So if we perform the JSON encode on this array, we have only one property for the JSON object, that is called the status, and here the value for status is end, and here we perform the JSON encode. In other case, that means if there are information, there are images to send, in that case here we perform the same thing. Here we save a name key value pair to the array called response. Here the JSON, if you perform the JSON encode, the JSON object has only one property called status, and value for it is OK. Here I create a variable count and initialize that variable by using this variable from. Here I create another variable images, it is also an array. Now we need to create variable path. We need to create two properties for the JSON response. First one is image path and second one is image ID. So in the case of first page, we have to create 10 image path and 10 image ID. So here I use a while loop for creating the image path and image ID. So in the case of page 1, this while loop will execute from 1 to 10. So here we save the image path into a variable called the image path. Here I use an IP address 10.0.2.2 because here we are going to test our Android application on Android virtual device. This is the default IP used by every Android virtual device to access the localhost. So in localhost we have a folder called the gallery app. In that folder we have another folder called the images. Now here we create the image name. This is the starting of image name pic, and the count will range from 1 to 10 in the case of first page. So here it will become pic 1, pic 2, etc. up to pic 10 in the case of first page. Okay, so now we have to here I create a name value pair and add it into the array called images. So when you perform JSON encode on this array, each JSON object has two property, ID and image path. So here we just add these two arrays into the final array called response. That means here we have an outer JSON array. In that array we have two objects. First object is the status called OK, and second object is the collection of images. So here I made a symbol sleep of 2 seconds because we have to show the downloading progress using a progress bar in our Android application. So here the server is localhost and it is too much fast. So in order to view the downloading status of the pages, I just create a sleep of 2 seconds here. And finally here we perform the JSON encode on the final array called response. So this is the PHP script that will provide images in the form of pages. So before going to use this PHP script with our Android application, we have to check whether this PHP script working fine or not. For that, here I already create a simple HTML page. This is the HTML page. I copy that HTML page. Now go to our project folder in WAM server. Go to scripts. I put it inside the scripts folder. So now I will show you the content of the HTML page. So here we have a simple HTML form with action getImages.php, and here the method is get. So this form need two values, item count and page number. page number and item count. Okay, so now we can test it. Open browser. Now here I am going to run the HTML page. So this is the path. So in this one we have to specify the page number. Here I specify the page number as 1 and item count is 10. That means each page contains 10 images, and click send the button. So this is the response from server. So this is a single JSON array that contains 2 JSON objects. The first object contains one property called status, and here the value for that one is okay. And the second object is another JSON array that contains object for each images. So here each JSON object has 2 property, ID and image path. So this is the response from server. So in this case our server contains only 80 images. That means if the item count is 10, we can load maximum of 8 pages. Suppose I am going to load the 9th page. That means there is no more images available on the server to load. In that case, the server, this is the server response. Only one JSON object with one property status, and here the response is end. So this is our API in server. Now we can start with the Android application development. So now we can start with the Android application development. Open Android Studio and create a new Android Studio project. Specify the application name. I name it as Gallery App. Select empty activity. Click finish. So here our project is created. So first here I close all these files, close all. So first here I'm going to add the needed permission for this application. So for this application we need only one permission, that is the internet permission. Users permission, internet. So this is the only one permission needed by the Android application. So now we need to add some dependency for this project. So open Gradle scripts, open the module level Gradle scripts file. So now we need to add some dependencies. So these are the dependencies needed for this application. So here this is the dependency for retrofit. So here we are going to use retrofit for fetch information from the server, and here is the retrofit JSON converter dependency, and we are going to display the image using the glide image loading library. So this is the dependency for using the glide image loading library. We need the RecyclerView dependency, and here each image is placed on a card view, so we need the dependency for using card view. So these are the dependencies needed for this project. So now I copy all these dependencies. Now go to Android Studio, add all the needed dependencies here. And here you have to use the implementation because the compile configuration is deprecated from Android Studio 3.0 onwards. So instead of compile configuration, you have to use this one, implementation. So now we add all the needed dependency for our project. Now we can sync it. Now sync the project. Now here the project sync finishes successfully. So first we can create the retrofit configuration. For retrofit we need 3 things. First one is an instance of retrofit. Second one is a model class. Third one is an interface that contains possible API calls. So first here I am going to create the model class for the retrofit. So inside Java folder, create a new Java class. I name it as data response and create that class. So now we can check the response from server in the case of second page. This is the response from server. So the first class contain only one variable called status, and the second class needed two variables, ID and image path. Okay, so now here I'm going to create another class. I name it as images. So now create some variables. First one is image ID. Now create another variable, image path. Now for the proper JSON mapping, we have to use an annotation called serialized name. So now we can check the response. So here the keys are ID and image path. So for this one it is ID. Now specify the annotation for the second variable. Here it is image path. Okay, so now we need the getter methods for these two variables. So create the getter methods. Okay, so now on the first class we need only one variable. Sorry, we need two variables. First one is a string variable, status. Second one is a list that contain object of the images class. I name it as image list. Okay, I name it as images. Okay, now we have to specify the serialized name for proper mapping. So here it is status, and for the list we have to check the response, and for the list it is images. Also here also we need the getter methods for these two variables. Select the getter methods. So this is the model class for the retrofit. Okay, so now we can create a class that return an instance of retrofit. So create a new Java class. I name it as API client. So here create some variables, publish static final string, base URL. Now specify the base URL. So here we are going to test our application on Android virtual device. So for accessing the localhost, you have to specify the default IP address 10.0.2.2. So in that localhost we have a folder called gallery app, and we have a folder called scripts. So this is our base URL. Now create another variable for retrofit. I name it as retrofit. Initialize that variable with the value null. Now create a method that return an instance of retrofit. Public static retrofit get API client. So here first check some condition. If retrofit is null, in that case we have to initialize that object retrofit equal to new retrofit builder. Base URL, specify the base URL. Now add the converter factory. JSON converter factory dot create, and finally call the build method. Okay, now we can return the instance of retrofit from this method. So return retrofit. So now we need to create an interface for possible API calls. So here create another Java class. I name it as API interface. It is not a class, it is an interface. Now we can create the method. So here we need only one method called get images. This is the only one images needed. Now specify the return type. So here the return type is a list of the class called data response. So list of data response. So this is the only one method we need. Now we have to specify the API endpoint. So here the request type is get. Now specify the API endpoint. We have to check the API endpoint inside scripts. This is the API endpoint, get images.php. Okay, so for this method we have to pass two parameters. First one is the page number and item count. So here I create two variables. We need two parameters, page and items. So for proper mapping, specify query annotation. Now specify the key for it. Here it is page number, and for the second variable active query, here it is item count. Okay, so this is the only one method needed for the API call. So now we can create the user interface for the application. So first we have to add a recycler view inside the activity main.xml. So here I already created the needed layout files. So this is the layout for the activity main.xml. So here we need a recycler view with ID recycler view, and here I place a progress bar with ID progress bar, and here I made the visibility into gone. Now it is not available on the layout. Okay, so now we have to create a separate layout for each item on the recycler view. For that, here I am going to create another layout file. I name it as item layout. Here I already create the needed layout files. So this is the layout for each item on the recycler view. So this is a card view that contain a linear layout with orientation vertical. The linear layout contain two items, an image view and text view. So the image view display the image and the text view display the image name. So here the image view with ID album image and the text view with the ID album title. So these are the two layouts for the application. So now we can create the recycler view. So first here I am going to create the adapter for a recycler view. So right click the package and create a new Java class. I name it as a recycler adapter. And this class extends adapter, recycler adapter. And now here you need to implement the needed methods. You need to implement these three methods on create view, on bind view holder, and get item count. So first here I am going to create the view holder class, public static class. I name it as my view holder, and this class extends view holder. For this class it need one parameter, one constructor. Now specify the generic type of this class. So for this method, the onCreateViewHolder method, the return type is an object of the viewholder class, and for the onBindViewHolder method, the first parameter is an instance of viewholder class. Here it is my viewholder. Okay. So now inside the viewholder, here I am going to create some variables for. Okay, before going to do that, here I am going to create some variables. First one is a list that contains some object of images class. I name it as images list. Now we need some variables for context. I name it as context. So for initializing these variables, here I am going to create a constructor for this class, recyclerAdapter. For this constructor, we need two parameters. First one is a list of object. I name it as image list. Now the second parameter is context. So now we can initialize those two variables. First one is image list and second one is context. So from the getItemCount method, we can return the size of image list. Now inside the viewholder class, here I am going to create some variables. First one is an image view. I name it as album. Second one is a text view. I name it as album title. Now we can initialize the two variables from the constructor of this class. First one is album. That is an image view. So item view dot find the view by id r dot id dot this is album image. Okay, so now the second one is the text view album title. So item view dot find the view by id r dot id album title. Okay, so now go to the onCreateViewHolder. First here create an object of view class, layout inflator dot from parent dot get the context and call the inflate method. Now specify the layout for each item. Here it is item layout. Container is parent. One more parameter, it is false. Okay, so from this method we have to return an object of viewholder class. So return here we have to return an object of viewholder class, my viewholder, and pass the view object. Okay, so from the onBindViewHolder method we can display the image and we can set the title on the text view. So for that, here I am going to create an object of images. I name it as image. Image list dot get position. So get the object of the images. Now first here I am going to display the title of image. So holder dot album title dot set the text. Image dot get image id. So here we can display the image name as image and the image id. Okay, now we can display the image on the view, image view. So here we are going to use glide for load the image, glide with the context. Now call the load method. So get the URL from the image object, get image path into album, into the image view. Okay, so now we need to create another method for the pagination. So here I am going to create a separate method, public void. I name it as add images. This method is for the pagination, and this method contain only one parameter. it is a list that contain object of images. I name it as images. Now start some for each loop. Images im. Now I'm going to add this image, each of this object, into our list called images list. So images list dot add im. And now we can configure the recycler view. So open main activity and here create the needed variables. First one is an object of recycler view. Now we need an object of progress bar. Now we need an object of grid layout manager. I name it as layout manager. Okay. So now we can initialize these variables. So first one is recycler view. Find the view by id r.id recycler view. Now we can initialize the grid layout manager. So layout manager equal to new grid layout manager. So here we need 2 columns. Now set some parameter for the recycler view. Set has fixed size into true. Now specify the layout manager for the recycler view. So recycler view dot set layout manager into layout manager. Okay. So now here I'm going to create some variables. Private int page number. I initialize that variable with the value 1. Private int item count. This variable indicate how many images needed on each page. So here I specify that one into 10. Okay, so now we can load the first set of images. So for that we have to create some variables for the API interface. So private API interface So API interface equal to API client dot get API client and call the create method. Now specify the interface class name API interface dot class. Okay, so now we can call the method. So here the return type is an object of call class that contain a list of images. It is a list of data response. I name the variable as call. Now call that method API interface dot get images. So here the first parameter is the page number. So this is the first page. So pass the variable page number, and second parameter is the item count. So now we can get the information. So call the method enqueue. Now implement the callback methods. So now from the on response we can add the information into the recycler view. So we can check the response from server. So here this is the outer JSON array. So that JSON array contains two JSON objects. This is the first object and this is the second object. So here the images are available on the second object and first object is the status. So in the case of first page there is information available on the server, so there is no need to check the status. So now we need to get the information. So we need a list of images. I name it as images. So response dot body dot get. So the information available on the second object. So here the index is 1. And call the method get images. Now we can initialize the adapter for recycler view. So here we have to create some variables for recycler adapter. Recycler adapter, I name it as adapter. So now we can initialize that adapter from the response of the retrofit. So adapter equal to new recycler adapter. So here we need two parameters. First one is a list. Here we can pass the list, and second parameter is the context object. So main activity dot this. So now the adapter is ready. Now we can display the recycler view. So we can set the adapter. So RecyclerView dot set adapter and pass the adapter. So here we display some information to the user. Main activity dot this. First page is loaded. Now specify the duration short. Now show it. So here we can display the progress dialog, sorry, progress bar. So progress bar dot set visibility into visible. So when we get the response, we can close it. So progress bar dot set visibility into gone. So now we can test our application. So here I open an Android virtual device. Now run the project. Select the Android virtual device. There is some error occur. We can check it. Okay, I think we forgot to initialize the progress bar. Yeah, it is created, but it is not initialized. Okay, progress bar equal to find view by id r.id dot progress bar. Okay, now we can test it again. Run the project again. Select the virtual device. So here now on the recycler view, we load the first image from the server, first page from the server. So now when the user scroll up, we have to load the next page. So now we are going to do the pagination on recycler view. So for performing pagination, now here inside main activity, here I am going to create a separate method. Private void perform pagination. Okay, so here also the same thing, we have to perform a call. So here I copy this entire statement and put it here. So here we have to the change is on the response. So here first we have to check whether there is more information, that means there is images available on the server or not. For that we have to check the response from server. This is the response. So here the array contain the first object on the array is the status. So we have to check the status first. So here we have to check it if response dot body dot get first image, first index 0 dot get the status dot equals okay. That means images are available. Otherwise we have to tell the user that there is no more images for display. No more images available. Okay, so if images are available, we have to add it to the adapter. Check the adapter. So here we add a separate method for pagination called add images. So after adding all the images to the list, we have to call the method called notify data set change. Now go back to main activity. So now here we need to get the list of images. I name it as images. So response dot body dot get, so first index, and get the images. Now we have to add it into the adapter. So call the method add images and pass the images. Okay, so now here we need to create some variables. So these are the variables for pagination. Here these are the variables for pagination. Private boolean is loading. Initialize that variable with the value true. Now we need some integer variables. Private int, pass to visible items, visible item count, total item count, previous total, all these variables initialize with the value 0. Now we need to create another variable, private int view threshold. View threshold is here. I'm going to use the view threshold as 0. Okay, so now we need to add some interface. We need to implement some scroll listeners for the recycler view. So RecyclerView dot add on scroll listener. Now implement the callback method. So here you need to implement only one method called on scrolled. So from this method we can initialize the variables. So first one is visible item count. So layout manager dot get child count. Now the second variable is total item count. Layout manager dot get item count. Now the third variable is pass to visible items. Layout manager dot find the first visible item position. Okay, so when the user scroll up, the value for dy is always greater than 0. So we have to check only that condition. So if the value for dy is greater than 0, that means the user scroll up. So now this is the first condition. If is loading is true, in that case we have to check another thing. Total item count greater than previous total. In that case we can set the is loading variable into false. Now we can reset previous total into total item count. So this is the first condition. Now we can check the second condition. The second condition is if not is loading and total item count minus visible item count less than or equal to pass to visible items plus view threshold. In that case we can call the pagination method. So here the method is perform pagination, and we can change the variable value is loading into true. Okay, so here before going to perform the pagination we need to update the page number. So here I update the page number by 1. Okay, so here we can display the progress dialog again. So progress bar dot set to visibility into visible. when get the response, we can hide it. So progress bar dot set visibility into gone. So after loading each page, we can display some information to the user. So here I display a toast message. So here we can display the page number, page, and here get the variable page number, is loaded. Okay, now we can test our application again. So now run the application. So here the first page is loaded. That page contains 10 images. So now here the second page is loaded. That contains 20 images. Now the third page is loaded. That means image up to 30 is loaded. Now this is the fourth page. This is the fifth page, image up to 50. This is the sixth page. This is the seventh page, image up to 17. And this is the last page. And there is no more images available. So this is how we perform pagination on an Android RecyclerView. I hope you understand all the concepts. For getting more Android tutorial updates, please subscribe this channel now. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.